Good evening. What's going on? I hope everybody's having a good week. Jimmy here in Chicago. Just got back from one of my favorite cities. I was actually in Miami last week. Thank God I dodged the hurricane. And, even though Miami has changed quite a bit, there's a lot of things about Miami that'll never change. For example, you have beautiful women, especially women from Cuba, Costa Rica, Argentina, Colombia. You've got beautiful Latin women, European women, models, strippers, everywhere you go, from the cafe to the hotel to the nightclub to the gas station. All you see is beautiful women in Miami. But you better be able to speak a couple different languages because it's an international city. I was shocked with how many new glass tower condominiums, multi-million-dollar condos are going up in and out of Miami. And they say, just like the mob built Vegas, same thing in Miami, cocaine built Miami. Back then, even to this day. Sad, but true. You got downtown Miami there, and right next to downtown is a real hot lit neighborhood called Brickell. I went on a little a tour, and you could tour Fisher Island, Palm Island, and Star Island. And this is where all the celebrities, VIPs, multimillionaires live. The homes here are 40 million plus, multi-million-dollar yachts. But from A to Z, everybody lives here. You could take a little tour and check out all the homes. Here's the Versace mansion right there on Ocean Boulevard. Here's me, yours truly. Now they open it up. You could, it's open up to a hotel, I think, or a restaurant, cafe. But this is where fashion icon Gianni Versace used to live, right there on Ocean Boulevard. And unfortunately, in 1997, he was shot and killed by that psychopath. I'd rather not even say his name. But I remember a couple months after the killing, you could still see some of the blood that was washed up. But if you're ever in Miami, you definitely want to take a walk or drive down Ocean Drive and check out the Versace mansion. A drink in here is $33. I also stopped in Little Havana. I had a nice cigar, couple cups of Cuban coffee, and I think I had one or two mojitos. And, down in Miami, Little Havana, they definitely know how to make a strong mojito. By 2 o'clock, I was hammered. But definitely another great neighborhood to visit is Little Havana. Let's read some comments here, man. So what's going on with you guys? Everybody's keeping busy, working, hopefully making some money, man. Got this freaking election coming up. Yeah, Chicago. What's up, Michael? It's still a great city, man. I don't care what anybody says. We got problems like all of our cities in the country, but I still enjoy it. I'm glad you do too. Uh-oh. I don't know what this means. Okay, relax, lowlifer. I'm going to have to block you, okay? Oh, God, yeah. The worst of the worst. Lee Miglin, a lot of people who don't know, he was one of the architects responsible for the Great Chicago skyline, one of the most beautiful skylines in the world, right? Back then, even today. But Lee Miglin was one of the architects. Poor man was in the Gold Coast doing some work right there in his garage on his car, and just by chance, Andrew Cunanan was driving around after he killed his lover in Minnesota. He was on the run. Unfortunately, he came to Chicago, and he sees this older gentleman with the garage door open, easy access, kills him, murders him for no reason, steals his coin collection, heads down to Miami, Now he's killed 2 people. The lowlife pawns his coins at a pawn shop in Miami. And here's where the pawn shop and the Miami police in Dade County screwed up. They were supposed to share that information. The Miami police didn't know Andrew Cunanan was in the Miami area until it was too late. As we all know, Andrew Cunanan shot and killed Gianni Versace. But I bring that up because that could have been prevented. God bless Gianni Versace and Andrew Cunanan. Nikki, man, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for tuning in. Today, guys, we're going to do a short story about the Lenny Patrick Crew. I've seen this scumbag testify against the entire Sam Carlisi crew, and I've seen him testify against Gus Alex and Nick Geo, one of the worst human beings ever. Roger, what's going on, man? Norwich, just kind of on the outskirts of Chicago, great neighborhood. How you doing, Roger? Wow, yeah, West Palm Beach, wonderful. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you miss South Florida. You know, the only problem there is the humidity and obviously the hurricanes. But aside from that, every other day is paradise. But in Miami, you definitely have to speak Spanish. I didn't rent a car, unfortunately, but I probably had 15 Uber rides. Not one of them spoke one single word of English. Every employee, everybody in the industry, restaurant, bartender, anybody at the hotel doesn't speak a word of English. You definitely need to speak a different language in Miami because it's an international city. But other than that, man, I love it. It's one of my favorite cities. Very, very expensive. Drinks go anywhere from $18 to $35 a drink. Rents are $3,000 and higher. But let's get into it, guys. It's been a while since I've been to a good trial. Unfortunately, there's not too many big mob trials left, right? There's really not much of the Chicago outfit anymore. Most of the heavyweights have all died or are locked up in prison. But I was very fortunate to attend the major federal trials, 25 plus trials, going back from the 1990s to the mid-2000s. And keep in mind, these trials are open to the public. But a trial that started this week, I'm going to probably check it out maybe later this week or one day next week if I get a chance. I'm going to go to the Michael Madigan trial. Let's see here. This guy. Now, people ask me all the time, who's running the Chicago outfit? Who's the boss of Chicago outfit? This is the boss right here, Michael Madigan. One of the most powerful men, not only in the city of Chicago, but in the state of Illinois. Him and his right-hand man are charged in a 23 federal indictment, racketeering, conspiracy, bribery, the usual, wire fraud, 23 counts. And his good buddy, Alderman Burke, one of the longest serving, oldest aldermen in the city of Chicago, he just got convicted. He got fined, what do you get? $2 million fine and 2 years in prison. There's no way Mike Madigan is going to beat these charges. He's smart enough to know this, but it'll be interesting because to not only see him in person, but his family's there to see all the lawyers. Here's some of the evidence, and you learn quite a bit at these trials. But there's nothing like a good murder or a good racketeering mob trial, right? These federal political trials are a little boring. They're interesting, but they're boring. But anyways, Michael Madigan faces up to 20 years in prison. Me personally, I don't really believe in long prison sentences, but what I would do with guys like Michael Madigan or Ed Burke, I would maybe give them a little bit of time in the county jail just to see what it's like to have their freedom taken away. But I would hit them in the pocketbook, meaning I would bank rob them. All the homes, all the businesses, all the cash, all the stocks, it's gone. You're going to get your freedom, but it's going to cost you. That's the way I would punish a lot of these guys. Let's read some comments. Roger, yeah, I'm definitely going to attend the trial. I'm not going to go every day because I'm pretty busy and I'm not that interested in it. Again, I'm pretty spoiled. Nothing compares to a Mike Sarno outlaw motorcycle gang trial, or Family Secrets trial, or Bobby Salerno trial. I mean, nothing compares to those trials. But I'll definitely stop by the Mike Madigan trial maybe for a couple hours, either late morning or in the afternoon, and I'll post on it. But it's interesting because I hang out at a restaurant. It's an old Italian patch on 26th in Oakley, 26th in California. It's Pilsen now, but it used to be a little Italian neighborhood. But there's a restaurant there called Bruna's, and guess what? That's where Mike Madigan hangs out. I've seen him there by himself, with business people, and with his family probably 6-7 times. I never say anything to him. I just kind of wave to him, because I don't know the man. But when he sees me walk into that courtroom, he's going to recognize me from Bruna's restaurant, and he's probably going to be thinking, who the hell is this guy? But yeah, I'm definitely going to go to that trial. You guys can go too. It's open to the public. Yeah, 30 North LaSalle. What's going on, Brian? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, it's interesting. You got all the top attorneys that work right across the street from the court buildings. How convenient. And then you also got the MCC jail right there as well. I'm doing it, Amanda. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, now enough about Miami. Enough about Michael Madigan. We all know he's going down. We're going to talk about this man here, the Lenny Patrick Crew. Lenny Patrick, this guy's an old Jewish gangster, right? This scumbag goes back to the Al Capone days. I seen him testify against the entire Sam Carlisi crew. That was Carlisi, Little Jimmy Marcello, Tony Zizzo, The Hatch, and a couple other guys. Imagine seeing all those wise guys and associates sitting at the defense table. I thought for sure Tony the Hatch was going to jump over and attack Lenny Patrick on the stand. And there's not much the marshals could have done about it. I also seen this piece of shit testify against Gus Alex. He admitted on the stand he didn't want to die in jail. He was afraid of dying in jail. So he decided to flip, cooperate, and actually wore a wire against Gus Alex. He rose through the ranks of the Chicago outfit and became a lieutenant for a multi-million-dollar gambling operation on the North Shore. Just like the Greeks and the Italians and the Chinese, a lot of the Jews like to gamble as well. And in Chicago, on the North Shore, in the North Suburb, is a lot of wealthy Jewish people. But this is one nasty individual. His testimony crippled the Chicago outfit. He showed absolutely no remorse. And we're going to talk about not only him, but his crew. Now, coming up, the man was a career criminal. He admitted he never once had a legitimate job. He said on the stand that he robbed him and his crew over 100 banks, not only in Chicago, but the suburbs of Chicago and the entire Midwest. Over 100 banks, armed robberies. And the vast majority of them he got away with. Now, he did some time in prison in the olden days, but this was his specialty coming up, a bank robber. Fast forward, he became gambling lieutenant for the Chicago Outfit's North Side operation. As we all know, Chicago Outfit made millions and millions of dollars just in gambling and loan sharking alone. Lenny Patrick was in charge of the North Shore. They had full-blown casinos, card games with dealers that would cheat the players, video poker machines. They had a wire with 2 or 3 of the major horse racing racetracks. They bet hockey, football, basketball, all college sports, multi-million-dollar gambling operation. Government used to lock up people for gambling. Now the government has taken over the gambling. Let's read some comments here. Brad says, I don't think Al Capone was actually a boss. Well, as we all know, he shelved New York, got the hell out of New York City, probably saved his life, came to Chicago, and pretty much developed the Chicago outfit, surrounded himself with men like Joe Batters, Great Guzak, Paul Ricca. And that's what was so key about the outfit. We had a strong foundation, one family, like a fist, not 5 families all trying to kill each other, like New York or some of the guys in Philly and Boston. They always had beef with each other. But no, Al Capone actually was a boss, but not a very good one. Yeah, he was, Amanda, one of the best bank robbers in the country, you know? I mean, he grew up with Sam Giancana, Al Capone, you know, all Milwaukee Phil, all the heavyweights. That's one thing about some of these made guys and associates is some of the ones that decide to flip and cooperate. They've known the guys they do crimes with for, 20, 30 years. They know a lot of information about them. They have a lot of detail. And them, along with the government, cooperating everything and tying up all the loose ends, that's how come a lot of these juries find these low-life scumbags credible, because they have so much detail. But the government, the prosecution, and the judge admitted that they made a deal with the devil, with Lenny Patrick, to go after men like Sam Carlisi and Gus Alex. And one thing I learned about mob guys going to these trials is, whether they want to admit it or not, several of them do associate and even hang out with real lowlifes. That's what blows my mind. When I heard B.J. Jehoda testify, I thought to myself, I even said it out loud where Bobby Salerno heard it. I said, why would you associate with such a scumbag like this? Same thing during the Mike Sarno trial. One of their government snitches who wore a wire on the crew, the guy I talk about that did a home invasion, the old man and old lady caught him in the act, robbing their home. The old man got in a fight with the guy, much younger than him. The old man was getting the best of him. And this lowlife, I think his name was Mark Hale, he stabbed the old man in the leg just to get away. What a freaking coward. But again, what are savvy, sharp, experienced guys like Mark Polchman and Mike Sarno and Volpendenzo doing with lowlifes like Mark Hale? I mean, the same thing, Bobby Salerno, Rocky and Felice, Louis Tomatoes. Why associate with a low like B.J. Jehoda? Or look at what's his face, Bob Cooley. You have to shelve yourself from some of these low lives. But believe it or not, a lot of outfit guys and associates, criminals, they associate with scumbags, and eventually bites them in the ass. That's just how I feel. Yeah, we're going to talk about that, TC. That's true, man. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Yeah, again, a lot of these guys go back to the Al Capone days. Hi, Mary. Mary's my favorite. I hope you're doing well. I'm going to come see you one day. Hopefully we can have lunch when I go see my daughter at school. I hope you're rocking that shirt too. All right, let's get back into this crew here. I don't want to keep you guys all night. My haters tell me, oh, your videos are too long. I should only keep them to 20 minutes. So I'll try to shorten them a little. So again, Lenny Patrick and his crew, multi-million-dollar gambling operation. But let's talk about some of the heavy stuff. He admitted on the stand that he killed over 12 people. Several others he couldn't even remember, and he laughed about it. He also gave the government information on about a dozen or so other unsolved murders. But here's a guy here that ran the wire service, right? The national wire service, the wire for sporting all across the country. This guy goes back to Arcardo and Nitty, Iupa. He ran afoul with the Chicago outfit. Make a long story short, right there on Pershing and State, he was ambushed, shotgunned to death. When they took him to the hospital, he signed a paper identifying the shooter. And shortly after that, he died of a dose of mercury. Somebody got to the hospital and poisoned this guy. So nobody was ever charged with the murder of James Reagan, but Lenny Patrick and his good friend Davy Yaras were the prime suspects. Another murder, unsolved murder by the Chicago outfit, was a very politician, a Chicago politician, Ben Lewis. Ben Lewis was found shot to death right in his office. There's a photo of him laying face down with his arms in front of him. He was shot and killed in 1963. There's a good documentary out called A Murder Nobody Was Interested in Solving. I'm going to be interviewing with that guy soon. He is obsessed with this murder, and he's interviewing people that have anything to know about Lenny Patrick. But Lenny Patrick and his crew, probably Lenny and Davy Yaras, and also Chicago policemen, were the prime shooters of this Chicago politician, Ben Lewis. Lenny Patrick also bragged on the stand during the Sam Carlisi trial that he extorted $300,000 out of heavyweight Al Dorfman. And I'm not sure if I believe that, because Alan Dorfman, as you know, was in charge of the Teamsters Pension Fund. That was the mob's golden goose. He had protection from Joe Lombardo and many other heavyweights, right? So, but I don't know. According to Lenny Patrick, his crew extorted $300,000 from Alan Dorfman. We all know he eventually was killed. Another unsolved murder of the Chicago outfit. There's a lot of rumors, a lot of prime suspects, but a lot of people think that Alan Dorfman was more of a racketeer and a businessman, which he was. I mean, he made millions of dollars. However, I've heard from several guys in the neighborhood that he was a tough son of a bitch. He was a Marine, and he actually did work back in the day. I don't know if that's true or not, but Alan Dorfman was no softy. Another victim of the Chicago outfit and a victim of the Lenny Patrick crew. Now here's Lenny Patrick's BFF, his best friend, probably his fucking lover for all I know. Davy Yaras, Chicago outfit associate. He was pretty much Lenny Patrick's right-hand man. This guy was involved in several murders, prime suspect, along with Chicago cop in the Ben Lewis murder, prime suspect in the murder of James Reagan and several others. Fast forward, the Chicago outfit was afraid he was going to cooperate, and they killed him and his son. That was Lenny Patrick's right-hand man and partner in crime. Two real scumbags. Yeah, what a life, right? Can't trust anybody. John Theckerata wouldn't get in a car with anybody, right? The only person he trusted was his good friend Nick Calabrese, and sure enough, it was Nick Calabrese's friend that killed him. Same thing with B.J. Jehoda. He lured his best friend, Hal Smith, to his house, knowing he was going to get killed. Yeah, that's right. What was his name? Red Dorfman, I think, Amanda. Thanks for bringing that up. Big time racketeer type of guy. Could do a story just on him alone. Yep. A lot of father and son outfit connections. Now, see, I didn't know this. I didn't know he had a lot of enemies, but I'm not surprised. Tony Pro. Thanks, Amanda. I love it. I appreciate it, man. I tell my haters, hey, bro, put out the cigarette, go walk your dog, or take the wife to Olive Garden. Get a life. I love it. Thank you so much. Just want to make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. Okay, let's get back to it now. So let's get into Lenny Patrick's crew, right? Davey Ayres, his son, James Lavelli, top enforcer. Actually seen this guy a couple different times. First time I seen him was at the Sam Carlisi trial. He testified against Sam Carlisi, Jimmy Marcello, Tony the Hatch, and Zizzo. This guy looks like a NFL football player. They used to call him Panda. His testimony helped prove who's who in the Chicago outfit. And every time he slipped and said that Sam Carlisi was boss of Chicago outfit, Carlisi would stand up, lose his temper, and start yelling. The judge would have to clear the courtroom. It was the Gus Alex trial that was first, then the Sam Carlisi trial. First time I see him, he testified against Gus Alex and Nick Geo. He testified how him and his crew would extort car dealerships, restaurant owners, local businessmen. He said one guy, he floored him with one punch. But imagine having an NFL-type linebacker coming into your business demanding hundreds of thousands of dollars. Very intimidating, like his lover, scumbag boss, Lenny Patrick. James Lavelli did not want to do any time in prison. He decided to flip and cooperate. And however, payback time, a couple years later, James Lavelli was killed. Another unsolved outfit murder. Hang on, I got to knock this out. Another key enforcer, another key member of the Lenny Patrick crew. You have Mario Ranone, Mario the Arm. Just imagine seeing this guy in court. I seen him in the Gus Alex trial, and then years later, I seen him. He got pinched for having a gun. Joe Lopez was his lawyer. He got 15 years. After doing many years in prison, never ratting, never rolling, never flipping or cooperating, he does his time, comes home, is carrying a gun, which he knows he's not supposed to do because he's a felon. But in his defense, he was probably had the gun in his possession for protection, right? A guy like these, he's not going to trust anybody. He's got a lot of ops. He gets pinched, does 15 years in prison. He's out of prison now. He's out on supervised release. And Chuck Gowdy just did a story. You could check it out. That him and his lawyer are trying to get that supervision released so he could travel. I guess he's obsessed with dogs and dog shows. So here's Mario Ranone trying to get out of release from supervision. I doubt if the judge will grant it, but he's still confined to home. Hopefully Mario Ranone is behaving himself and that his outfit days are over. But when they played the tapes and they had the victims testify in court how he would walk in there into a restaurant, into a car dealership, demanding hundreds of thousands of dollars, or he would kill them and their entire families. Mario Ranone would threaten the guy's family, and that would really get their attention. Fast forward, he was casing out a score one day. He saw a couple other outfit guys there as well. He got spooked. He thought they were trying to kill him. He was going to flip and cooperated. But after conversations with conduits through the Marcello family, he decided he's not going to flip. So I want to make it clear right now, Mario Ranone never cooperated. He got convicted at the Gus Alex trial, did his time, came home, got convicted on a gun charge, did another 15 years. But this is a stand-up guy, an enforcer for the Chicago outfit, Mario Ranone, still alive today. But I bring him up because he was a top enforcer for the Lenny Patrick Crew. Another member of the Lenny Patrick Crew, you got Nick Geo. Now, Nick Geo was a young Chicago outfit associate at the time. I think it was in his 20s. He was already in prison for killing a popular hairdresser who disrespected him. But what Nick Geo didn't know is that hairdresser was good friends with John Nonos, DeFranzo, Ferriola, and some other heavyweights. So Nick Geo is in prison for that murder. He gets convicted for being part of the extortion crew that Lenny Patrick was running. He was charged with firebombing and, again, walking into local businesses, threatening violence. But this is a stand-up guy here. He's spent a lot of time in prison. Hopefully he'll come home one day to his family. Let me read some more comments. Yeah, probably. They just showed a photo of him. I didn't even recognize him. Mario Ranone with a big, beautiful, fluffy, furry dog. But yeah, I guess he wants to attend shows. And they were saying if the judge allows it, he's willing to work at the dog shows, meaning walk the dogs, clean the dog's kennels, pick up the dog shit. He'll do all the dirty work just to be able to leave the house, leave the neighborhood, and attend these dog shows. What do you guys think, though? Do you think they should do you think they should release this type supervision on Mario Ranone? I don't know, man. I don't know if I would. If you look at his criminal record, it's pretty lengthy. But you know, well, I mean, come on. He's what, late 60s, early 70s. I don't really think he's a threat anymore, but he's definitely a dangerous man back in his day. All right, take it easy now, DB. Interesting. Wow, I didn't know this. Thanks for sharing that, TC. Oh, yeah, Lenny Patrick was very, very well known in the Chicago outfit. I mean, he was a high-ranking associate, if you will. I'm not saying he was liked and respected, but he was definitely well-known, man. Career criminal. But again, when you hang out with lowlifes Lenny Patrick, they're going to come back and bite you in the ass. That's exactly what happened, especially to Gus Alex. All right, let's get back to it. I have not only do I have the Nick Calabrese transcripts I could share with you guys for free, no charge, but I now have the Lenny Patrick transcripts when he testified against Gus Alex. So if you guys would like those, shoot me an email, reach out to me. I also will give you a tour of some of the Italian neighborhoods if you're ever in the city of Chicago. I've got merch for sale. I've got some of these photos behind me. You can get these framed or unframed. Another members of the Lenny Patrick Crew, if you will, is, as I mentioned before, the Chicago outfit had major influence. They pretty much controlled the entire Chicago Police Department, where the police would look a blind way to their gambling, prostitution, harmless rackets, right? But Lenny Patrick actually had a couple Chicago cops, actually a handful, that would do more than surveillance, more than watch their gambling operation, tip them off on their ops. But Lenny Patrick bragged, kind of like Gas Pipe in New York, where you had the two mob cops that were committing murders. And they were never charged, but some of the Chicago cops that worked for Lenny Patrick were prime suspects in some of the murders that the Lenny Patrick Crew pulled off. So that shows you what a fucking gangster Lenny Patrick was, that he literally had Chicago police officers, corrupt Chicago police officers, doing scores, favors, and even committing murders by Lenny Patrick. During the Gus Alex trial, the government was able to prove that Lenny Patrick was the leader of a very violent extortion crew. So aside from the multi-million-dollar gambling operation going on, they were extorting certain car dealerships. And Lenny Patrick testified that he had to get approval of certain restaurant owners, car dealership managers before he could extort them. Most of the time, he followed his orders he claims he got from Gus Alex, but sometimes he would extort guys he wasn't supposed to. But anyways, Lenny Patrick would send in Nick Gio, Mario Ranone, James Lavelli, and others into dealerships, threaten to kill them and their family if they didn't come up with hundreds of thousands of dollars. The guy would be scared shitless. He didn't go to the FBI. He would eventually start paying the Lenny Patrick crew street tax, extortion. And somehow, some way, the government was able to prove that Lenny Patrick was kicking up some of that extortion money to Gus Alex. Same thing. The Lenny Patrick crew was extorting a lot of high-end restaurants, some in the city, mostly in the North Shore, right, where all the wealthy people live. Lenny Patrick testified that he would ask Gus Alex if he could go after, in code, certain people. And Gus Alex would either approve or disapprove. So that was the government's way of showing that Gus Alex had a say-so in the extortion. So they would extort the restaurant owners, managers, with violence. And a lot of these guys like Nick Gio, Mario Ranone, James Lavelli, they liked it when the guy wouldn't pay, because then that gave him a chance to give him a good beating or a good smack. These are violent guys. They like violence. They like doing stuff like that, right? So imagine some of these poor restaurant owners. I mean, they've got the overhead, they got the employees, they got all kinds of overhead and trauma. And now they're being extorted by very dangerous men. They had some of the car sales manager, some of the restaurant owners testify in court how they were assaulted and extorted by the Lenny Patrick crew. Now, as I mentioned, Lenny Patrick got pinched on gambling, racketeering. He was the prime suspect in a couple murders. He knew his days were numbered. He did not want to die in prison. He decided to flip and cooperate. He actually wore a wire against Gus Alex. And the prosecution admitted that they made a deal with the devil to go after a guy like Gus Alex. And because it was such a big success, when all the defendants were found guilty, they decided to use low-life, pedophile piece of shit Lenny Patrick and his lover, James Lavelli. They would use these two witnesses, star witnesses, to use them again at the Sam Carlisi trial. And that's exactly what they did. They offered them reduced sentences, paid for their housing, gave them money to live on, gave them their freedom. And prior to the opening statements of the Gus Alex trial, that was the very first trial I ever went on. I read about it in the newspaper. I just said, you know what? I'm going. I was very fortunate to attend that trial. Ever since the Gus Alex trial, I was hooked. But prior to that Gus Alex trial, his daughter's house or her car, I forget, I think it was her car, her BMW, and her front porch exploded. So the Chicago outfit was trying to send Lenny Patrick a message not to testify. That's how important Gus Alex was to Chicago outfit. But what the outfit guys didn't know was that Lenny Patrick hadn't seen his daughter in over 22 years. The low-life piece of shit has not spoken to his daughter in over 22 years. He actually laughed about it when the prosecutor brought it up. He showed absolutely no remorse, and he could care less about his daughter. Even if she would have got killed, it meant nothing to him. That's what kind of low life this guy was. I said it once, and I'll say it again. I would rather go out and have dinners, state dinners, drinks, and smoke cigars with Osama bin Laden, Saddam Hussein, O.J. Simpson, and the Melendez brothers. I'd rather treat all of those scumbags to dinner than have a cup of coffee with Lenny Patrick. That's what a nasty man he was. Here's Gus Alex, 76 years old at the time. Walking into the Dirksen Federal Building, you could see he's nervous. He doesn't look too good. Inside, he's shaking in his boots. Gus Alex was a heavyweight in Chicago outfit, the political fixer, one of the most powerful men in the country. He had influence with the Vice President of the United States, congressmen, senatormen, aldermen. He controlled all the police. He controlled all the mob's money in their Swiss bank accounts, made millions of dollars, was very well liked, respected. He goes back to the Al Capone days as well. Government finally caught him by making a deal with the government. Government charged him with receiving kickbacks from Lenny Patrick extortion crew. But Gus Alex, and I was told this by his nephew, Dimitri, who I met at the trial. Usually I don't really talk to the family members because I don't know them. I would like to, but I show them respect. But you meet a lot of people at these trials. But his nephew, Dimitri, told me Gus Alex underestimated the prosecution. He thought, no way in hell would any jury believe a career criminal like Lenny Patrick. And the case was kind of weak. And I agree, it was. If I was on that jury, Lenny Patrick's testimony wasn't enough for me. I would have definitely found him not guilty. But he underestimated the government. He had probably the best defense attorneys at the time going up against a young prosecution team, but he underestimated the prosecution. They had a slam dunk case, and unfortunately, Gus Alex was convicted and sentenced to prison, but all based on Lenny Patrick's testimony. Interesting thing about the Lenny Patrick or the Gus Alex trial was Lenny Patrick and Gus Alex would sometimes meet at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, and they would use the doctors as their conduit, as their go-between. The doctors would relay messages. Doctors would exchange brown paper bags, assuming cash were in those bags. And some of these doctors testified that they did indeed deliver messages between Gus Alex and Lenny Patrick. Gus Alex was very paranoid, and he was heard on tape telling Lenny Patrick to be careful, to be cautious. But I thought that was pretty interesting that here's two heavy old men, old dinosaurs in Chicago outfit, powerhouses, meeting at the hospital and using the doctors as their go-between. As we all know, Lenny Patrick just didn't cooperate, but he actually wore a wire. He was trying to get Gus Alex on tape talking about accepting the bribe, but they didn't really get Gus too much on the tape, just showing that Gus was very paranoid. But anybody that's willing to wear a wire, I mean, someone like B.J. Jehoda, Bob Cooley, fucking Junior Calabrese, that's the worst of the worst. To literally try to entrap somebody, usually it's somebody you know well, knowing that wire is going to send them to prison the rest of their life and destroy a lot of other families. I don't know. I think they need to change these laws, but Lenny Patrick wore a wire on Gus Alex, and when they play those tapes, it's pretty alarming, pretty damaging. As I mentioned, Gus Alex had the best attorneys at the time. You got Sam Banks Sr., his son Sam Banks Jr. is now a top defense attorney, and then he had Carl Walsh Sr. These guys represented Tony Accardo, all the heavyweights in Chicago outfit, but by 1992, in my opinion, they were past their prime. Still great lawyers, very experienced, a lot of connections. They went up against a younger prosecution who destroyed these guys. These guys, I don't know whose idea it was, but they had Carl Walsh's son and some other lady escort Gus Alex in the court every day arm in arm, making him look like he couldn't walk. The jury didn't buy it. I thought it didn't look good, but unfortunately, Sam Banks, Carl Walsh, top defense attorneys, they lost the case. I'm sure Gus Alex was very disappointed in him. Now, here's one of the young prosecutors that prosecuted Gus Alex. You got Chris Gere, along with Ron Safer. These guys were outstanding. Two of the best prosecutors you'll ever see. They learned from the best. U.S. Attorney Patrick Fitzgerald, Mitch Marsh, John Scully. The list goes on and on. The best of the best, top of their class in law school. Now, these guys would use their mob boss prosecution cases as a stepping stone to further their career. Now, Chris Gere and Ron Safer and many others are now top defense attorneys making millions of dollars. But Chris Gere and Ron Safer had a solid case. They did a really good job, and they definitely did a much better job than Gus Alex defense team. But this man here admitted he actually made a deal with the devil by cutting a deal with Lenny Patrick. Chris Gere, now a top defense attorney. Here's the judge, federal judge, James Alasia, I think you pronounce his name. He ended up giving Gus Alex 15 years, which was pretty much a death sentence. Lenny Patrick committed perjury on the stand. The judge wouldn't allow certain evidence in by Gussie's lawyers, where this judge allowed everything Chris Gere and Ron Safer wanted in. I don't think Gus Alex got a fair trial, but he slammed him, gave him 15 years, knowing that in Gus Alex, at 78 years old, that was a death sentence. Gus Alex died in a federal prison. I think he was 88 years old, in his late 80s. Died of a heart attack. Here's a funny story here real quick is I used to work for a very powerful, rich and powerful real estate tycoon called the Balordises. This is Michael Balordis. And when he found out I went to the Gus Alex trial, he told me, don't ever mention that man's name again. That man is behind bars and he's resting. But God bless Michael Balordis, but a good friend of Gus Alex. As I mentioned, Sam Carlisi did a lot of business with Lenny Patrick. Lenny Patrick referred to Sam Carlisi. It was kind of like his boss. But Lenny Patrick's testimony sent Sam Carlisi and his crew to jail pretty much the rest of his life. Let's read a couple comments. Tommy Dye, I just started reading about this guy. Although I find his stories interesting, he's definitely told a couple lies. He definitely doesn't look like a mob guy. So I really wouldn't take much of what he says to heart. But no, I have no idea who he is, Nikki. I don't know. I saw some of his things, but it's mostly bullshit. Oh, I see. Okay. Interesting, Amy. Probably right, too. Yeah, Lenny Patrick was a Jew, a Jewish gangster. Absolutely. Yeah, that's Junior Calabrese. Now he's, what's he doing now? Doing tours, charging for the tours. And I know people that went on Junior's tours. They said they were pretty good. They said he was a little nervous. They say he's very personable. But he charges, I don't know, $100, $200 a tour. My tours are free. I don't charge anything. Mine prior is interesting as his, though. But yeah, that's a scumbag that wanted to lock up his father, steal all his money. Now he's interested in hopefully trying to strike a movie deal, books, movie tours, speakings. He's in it for the money. But his letter is what started the family secret trial and brought down. See, his letter and Nick Calabrese's cooperation just didn't destroy Joe Lombardo and Frank Calabrese. It destroyed a lot of other people too. Children, mothers, daughters, sons, nephews. It's the families that suffer. All right. We are almost done. I want to share a little bit of the transcript with you. Guys, got any questions, any comments? If you like my Chicago mob trial stories, hit the like button, subscribe, share with your friends. Let me show you my shirts really quick. If you guys want some shirts, let me know. Little Al Capone and his brother Ralphie. You got, this is Joey's picture when he was on the lam. The famous Last Supper. The government actually alleged that this was the making ceremony of Joey Lombardo. Joey denied knowing most of the men in the photo. You got Wings Carlisi. He led the Chicago outfit with an iron fist. If you got out of line, he would have you clipped. They have one of the shortest, most powerful men in the Chicago outfit, Alderman Pat Rohde, made member of the 26th Street crew. And on the back, vote for me and nobody gets hurt. I also got my cool photos. These are just a few. I got tours, no charge. But I want to read to you really quick if I can. I want to share my screen with you. I've got Lenny Patrick's transcripts if you guys are interested in. This guy was actually the prime suspect in President Kennedy's assassination. That's right. Him, his good friend Davey Iris, a member of his crew, were really close with Jack Ruby. We all know Jack Ruby was a Chicago outfit associate that was sent down to Dallas. However, Judge James at the Gus Alex trial would not allow the defense to bring that up to the jury that Lenny Patrick was a suspect in the JFK assassination. Gus Alex, or the lawyers went crazy. They felt they declared a mistrial. The judge wouldn't allow it. But the judge felt if one of those juries heard that Lenny Patrick was a suspect, a trigger man in killing President Kennedy, that could definitely been a different outcome for Gus Alex. Probably a not guilty. But again, the judge would not allow that in. Me personally, it takes a pretty nasty, evil man to pull the trigger knowing that bullet's going to kill the president. And I can definitely see Lenny Patrick filling that role. I can definitely see him as very capable. But we'll never know, right? So if you guys want these transcripts, let me know. Let me share my screen with you really quick. Well, I can't share my screen now, but I'll do it later. I got Nick Calabrese's transcripts that I want to go into a little bit more in detail so you guys can read it and judge for yourself if he was credible. I also want to share with you Lenny Patrick's transcripts. But when I have more time, I'll share my screen and we'll go over them. But it's a lot to read. So if you're interested in those transcripts, let me know. There's no charge. Same thing if you ever want to do a little tour of the Grand Avenue, Taylor Street, Bridgeport neighborhood. We can even check out Cicero, Elmwood Park, some of the outer skirts of the city. I appreciate you guys all supporting my channels. But let's do a recap. Lenny Patrick, right? Jewish gangster, lieutenant, multi-million-dollar gambling operation, Jewish gangster, murdered people, bank robber, did not want to die in jail, decided to flip and cooperate against Gus Alex, Nick Geo, and the entire Sam Carlisi crew. One of the worst men I've ever seen in my life. As I mentioned, he is one of the best bank robbers in the country, multi-million-dollar gambling operation, prime suspect, him, Davey Yeres, in the murder of James Reagan, prime suspect along with a Chicago policeman in the murder of Ben Lewis, a big-time political guy. He bragged that he extorted $300,000 from Alan Dorfman. Davey Yares is number one man in his crew, a killer. Him and his son both got killed by the Chicago outfit. James Lavelli, a member and enforcer for the Lenny Patrick crew. He decided to flip and cooperate, and then he eventually got clipped. Mario Ranone, another top enforcer for the Lenny Patrick crew, did football years in prison, got out, did another 15 years, is home now, trying to get out. on unreleased supervision so he could start traveling and enjoying his life. Nick Geo, still locked up today for the murder of a hairdresser. He was also a part of the Lenny Patrick's crew that was extorting businessmen and car dealerships. Nick Geo, stand-up guy, Chicago outfit associate. As we all know, no surprise, a lot of Chicago police were mobbed up. Some of them actually did hits. That's right. Some of them actually did killings, just like the mob cops at Bolito and that other guy in New York. Car dealerships were very easy for mob guys to extort. I'm sure they extorted a couple cars too. Restaurants, super easy. Restaurants, nightclubs, drug dealers, very easy for the guys to extort. Right before the trial, we all know the outfit. We don't know who gave the order. Could have been little Jimmy. Could have been Carlisi. Could have been Iupa. I'm not sure. But somebody gave that order. Whoever knows, please let me know. I forgot who planted the bomb too. But they tried to blow up Lenny Patrick's daughter's house just to send Lenny Patrick a message. But what the government didn't, what the outfit didn't know, Lenny Patrick had no relationship with his daughter. Gus Alex, high-ranking Chicago outfit, was convicted. Government was able to prove that he received kickbacks from Lenny Patrick extortion crew. They used the doctors as go-between. Lenny Patrick wore a wire. Lawyers, prosecutors, judge. In the end, all these guys get found guilty. Let's read a couple more comments, guys. I appreciate it, man. Hope you guys are having a good week. No, not Pat Marcy. No, Amanda. Behind me, I got Iupa, Joey Iupa, Joey Lombardo, Al Capone, Carlisi. I got the chin. In the Last Supper photo. I've got others. Yeah, that's probably what it was, TW. Joey denied ever letting anybody prick his finger, drawing blood. He denied ever having a burning card in his hand. He denied ever taking part of a maid ceremony, unlike what Nick Calabrese said about his making ceremony. His was real. His was the real deal, just like the movies. Joey says that he happened to be at a funeral. He had a taste for a nice roast beef sandwich. So the guys in the photo called him over to have a drink. Prosecutor said, let me get this straight. You, Joe Lombardo, just happened to run into some of the most powerful men in the Chicago outfit. Joey said, yeah. But that was kind of funny. But Joey was the only one dressed in a suit. So it definitely looked like he was celebrating something. Junior, he's looking for a movie deal, right? He's looking to go Hollywood. I think he's doing he's speaking at the Mob Museum in Vegas. I know he's doing tours. He's writing books. His brother Kurt, though, is not a big fan of Junior's. I have much more respect for Kurt Calabrese than Junior. I don't know Kurt Calabrese. I've seen him a few times. I see him in court. I see him at the festival. And my heart goes out to him, what that kid's been through. But I have a feeling he's been more physically and verbally abused than Junior was. And Junior is so lucky his father didn't find that wire. Imagine if Frank Calabrese would have found that wire for him, that wire on him in prison when he was looking for that tattoo. Junior was white as a ghost when he testified against his father. I want to make sure I'm not missing any comments here. I did. Yes, I did. Yeah, many times. Gino's, I used to go. That was the first place I ever got served liquor as a minor. That's the place where they had graffiti all over the world. Yeah, Papa Milano's, I think that guy, I'm not going to call him an outfit guy. I did a story. I mentioned his restaurant, but he definitely, that was a place where a lot of the outfit wise guys used to hang out. Yeah, two legendary places that are now gone. Thanks for bringing that up, TC. All right, guys, it's been an hour. I don't want to keep you. Thanks for tuning in for today. Let me know if you have any ideas for some shows. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share with your friends. Let me send you my email here really quick so you guys got it if you want to reach out to me. I'm trying to get a couple interviews going. I'm trying to get Ronnie Jarrett's son on here to interview. I'm trying to get Mark Polchman's son on here. Hopefully Mark Polchman. Now, here's a guy, Chicago Outfit associate, alleged outlaw motorcycle gang, gets pinched with the Sarno trial, gets 60 years. No guns, no drugs, no violence. 60 years. Talk about an overzealous prosecutor and judge. How can you give the alleged boss of the outfit 25 years and give a co-defendant 60? But luckily, through his family and good lawyers and patience, they got to reduce to 30 years with time served. Hopefully he'll come home within 10 years. There's no reason to lock up these men and give them football numbers for nonviolent crimes. But I hope and pray that they do let Jimmy Marcello come home, Mark Polkman, Nick Gio, Mike Sarno, and others. They've paid for their crimes. They're no longer threats to society. If you guys like my Chicago mob stories, if you guys like my Chicago mob trial stories, please hit the like button, subscribe, share with your friends. I'm going to go to the Mike Madigan trial. We'll talk about that a little bit. If there's any trials coming up and you guys want to go, keep in mind they're open to the public. Let me know if you want some merch, if you want a tour, if you want the transcripts. I appreciate everything. And for you haters out there, turn off the computer, pick up a book, put out the cigarette, and take the old lady to Target, okay? Ciao.